Okay, let's talk about the five elements. The five elements which mainly leading us throughout the process from actually session number 2 and on. And I think right now it's time to get deeper and to see the relationship between the elements. And we're gonna start. So we're gonna start with the fire element over here, this one. As you can see, the fire element has, each element has two sides, right? That balances each other, two sides that balance each other. And the way to balance is in each element a different, let's say, mind muscle that we need to practice in order to create the balance. I'm not saying that the inner circle is, as you can see, the inner circle here is the lower level of emotion, and I don't like to call it the bad emotion and negative emotion. And in Chinese philosophy, there is no good or bad. Like the perspective needs to be in the totally different terminology, which means the lower level of emotion in opposed to higher level of emotions. So if you can see, on each element you have the lower and you have the upper, right? And our purpose is to really go through all the level of emotions. A healthy human being needs to feel all the level of emotions: sadness, anger, grief, frustrations, fear. But at the same time, we need to learn, and that's the game. We need to learn when to stop, when it's enough, when it's the red line, in order to transform and to move to the higher level of emotion. And by that, we're practicing all the time the balance in between the forces. So let's talk about the fire element. The fire element. If we think about fire, The what comes up when you think about the word fire? And I would like to do some exercise with you. I'm gonna pause right now. Pause right now the video. I'm not gonna pause. You're gonna pause the video and just make a list. Just write a list of all these coming up for you when you think about fire. Okay, I assume you paused. I'm sure there's some who skip this stage. It's okay. And I'm gonna talk about what comes up for me. Fire. Fire is a force that there is a force that is very powerful and has a tendency to spread, right? Fire energy is not tangible. You cannot touch fire. If you touch the fire, you burn. So fire energy is untangible, but you can watch it. That means that it brings a lot of, inspiration, because it connects to something that is on one hand here on the physical world, but on the other hand, you cannot touch it. It's not physical. It's more spiritual. If we think about fire in the five element, if we think about a fiery person, you think about charismatic person, a person like he's very present, a person that he is spiritual, aware, inspire. He has like peace of mind and as well as joy. It brings a lot of joy. But on the other hand, if the energy is not regulated, if the energy is not balanced, and each element has, the let's say the higher version in opposed to the lower version of the element. So here in the fire, you would see a person that is insane if it's unbalanced. Insanity, a person that the physical the is not grounded. Do you know those people who are talking to themselves? That's the place of a fire person, that the yin, I say yin, I'm talking about, the nourishing part inside us is not there anymore, is missing. There is a lack of yin. The fire element, like the nature, if we think about fire, is nourishing and fertilizing the earth element. The earth element is coming next. The earth element, if we think about earth, what comes up for you? Pause. And I'm waiting for your list. I'm gonna wait until you come back. Okay, again, um, I really recommend that you will do the list, because when you will lead your clients, I I will ask for you to do the same, to ask from them to write a list of what comes up of each element. And it's very important, because that way we encourage them to develop those skills of connectivity to imagination, to the connection to the imagination part of the right brain. uh, and it's very important for them to practice that as well as you. So I will tell you about the earth element, assumingly that you paused. Okay, the earth element. The earth element is talking about earth, mother earth, mother nature. Uh, when we're talking about the earth element, we're talking about acceptance in opposed to worry. Why? Think about a mother. Think about a mother that she's nourishing the child. She like she is all the time in devotion, and the earth element. If we look in the middle here, you can see the word devotion and process. And only by processing, exactly like the stomach in Chinese philosophy, in Chinese medicine, the earth element is connected to the stomach. And everything we eat, we need to process, the same as spiritual food. When I'm saying spiritual food, everything that, every occasion, every event that we have, we need to, as we said, pause and process. And that's the work of the earth element. As long as we know how to devote ourselves to the nourishing these, like the our like inner conversations. Oh, hello. Oh, my dog just came to say hello. um so we as long as we process, we we know how to take all the places that we feel unstable, unbalanced, that brings a lot of worriness, and we bring it to the places of acceptance. We accept every occasion, every event, um, every cause and events, um, and circumstances. And by that, we balance. We balance the worry with the acceptance. The earth element is an element that nourished by the fire. Why? Look at the nature. Underneath, we have the lava. And this is exactly like nature. So the fire element is like, kind of like the fire is the oven, and um, is the fireplace that move the earth. And the earth is like, think about kind of like the oven, our stomach, the center that needs to get nourished, um, and processed. I can say that the element also talks about focus. you can add, instead of the vote and process, you can add also the word focus, because that's the place that we're focused, like we put the when we, let's say, when we're in a study, when we study, we need to be centered. We need that our earth element will be strong. ADHD or ADD are like basically in children, and you can see that children still are not stable, they're not regulated. So the ADHD and ADD are coming from unstable at center, the earth element. And the treatment is to really strengthen the muscles of acceptance. And with children, we talked about a lot of encouragement in order to create this courage and to really lead them to process things, um, and strengthen the center, the earth element. After the earth element, we have the metal element. The earth element nourishing the metal. The metal element talks about let go and talks about value. And basically, what it does, it balances the sadness with integrity. Um, why and how it relates? Think about that. First of all, inside the earth, you can see all the metals. You have the golds, you have the diamonds, you have all the other metals on earth. That way, the earth element is nourishing the metal. Okay. By knowing who we are, like a diamond, okay? Think about you as a diamond. By evaluating yourself and value, and when you know your values, when you know who you are, the process of letting go and emptiness, it comes from awareness. By that, the sadness is getting balanced with the layers of with the integrity, because we are all the time loyal to ourselves to see what belongs to us and what it doesn't belong to us. And by that, we empty. The muscle that we practice here is the muscle of emptiness. Emptiness out of awareness. The grief belongs to the metal element. Grieving, sadness. And we need to learn how to feel. Most of the people I'm finding that this specific element is very hard and tough for them. In humanity, up until now, we were taught not to let go of things that we needed to learn how to let go. So practicing the emptiness with awareness will cause less pain, because by that we all the time shedding we're always shedding the things that are not appropriate for us anymore, and by that we bring more and more of ourselves. We are loyal and we are living with integrity. Okay, so the way to balance the sadness with with integrity is to learn who we are by learning the values of us, by acknowledging the value who we are, and by letting go of what it doesn't belong to us. Okay? In nature, the metal element nourishing the water. If we think about nature, think about water that, oh, by the way, the metal element talks about boundaries. Yeah, because boundaries can teach us what belongs and what it doesn't belong to us. So, in order to really live in integrity, we need to learn how to put boundaries to ourselves and others. And now I'm bringing up the boundaries to and I'm relating that to fear, because without boundaries to the water element, because without boundaries, the water element, which relates that all the emotions that we're having inside us, it's like a bubbly water. Okay, so when we don't know how to put boundaries to, the level of emotions, then to go through and to move through one emotion to another, we are we are creating a flood in emotion, an emotional flood. And by that, and we that's the reason the metal element nourishing the water element by giving the red lines, the boundaries, the limitations, in order that allow us, that in order for us to learn how to work with fear. Okay, here I have here water in the cup. If we didn't have this cup, I couldn't hold the water. So the cup, okay, is the boundary to the water, exactly like how, like, the water in the world is moving through channels, right, underneath the earth. So if we think about water, we think about the water element is a beautiful element, talks about our wisdom and talks about our fears. And if we don't know how to balance fear with wisdom, we're creating accumulations, layers of fears that create heaviness, creates depression, anxiety. That's the reason it's very, very important all the time to learn how to work with fear, with the water element. If we think about water, water is an element that goes very deep to the earth, to the deepest places on earth. Because of that, it brings a lot of knowledge. See, like, let's think about, a typecast of water. Those people who are very, very, the people who know already everything on earth because they had a lot of experience and they saw everything. That's what represents the water. And but if we don't know how to work with fear, it can be very dangerous. And that's the reason water has the characteristic of of willpower, because water really know who they are. Water can change a rock by hitting the rock again and again and again, just because they know who they are. And the willpower relate to the water element. That's the reason trust and persist, exactly like the willpower. The water, the water allow us to be persistent and to trust ourselves in order to bring the wisdom that we have. We're moving to the wood element, the water nourishing the wood. Wood cannot exist without water, cannot be exist without water. So yes, water nourishing the wood. And wood, in Chinese medicine, Chinese philosophy, connect to the inner child, to creativity, to, if we're talking about wisdom, here we're talking about exploration, we're talking about creativity, we're talking about smart, I'm not talking about wisdom, there's different between them, okay? um, we're talking about the spring, the breakthroughs, the new steps, energy that comes from within. And it brings a lot of anger because this energy sometimes it's unregulated. if if you think about anger energy, it's a very strong energy that pops from inside. That's the reason sometimes stagnation are coming from this specific element. It called liver chi stagnation. Why? Because in our body there are lots of movements, and if we don't know how to process them right, especially in wood, and we're talking about inner child, okay? If we think about children, the way they know who they are, the way they know how to navigate their life is by acknowledging them, by give them encouragement. Only by encouragement they get the courage. So by thank and by forgive, we learn how to take the anger and to transform it into compassion and to teach ourselves how to forgive. Forgive to ourselves and forgive others. By the way, creativity is a very good way to learn how to transform anger to compassion, because by creating things, we learn how to express ourselves from higher vibration about all kinds of frustration that we have inside us. Wood element, inner child, anger, vice versa, compassion. So that was the co-cycle. This is how it's called, co-cycle. Okay? The co-cycle is the cycle that fertilizes, nourish, brings more energy from one element to another. But, and this is the big but, as we know, we need to, every element needs also kind of like a restrictive place that can teach, can supervise, put some boundaries when it's too much, when it's flawed. Exactly like I was talking before about the fire. So we were talking about the co-cycle, the cycle of fertilization, nourishing. But right now we're moving to the cycle of restriction, the cycle that needs to supervise and control and to put the boundaries of each element. And each element also has that, because we're all the time playing here with two forces, right? So if it will be only fertility, only moving forward, only nourishing, at the end, it will create pathologies. Exactly like cancer. Cancer is white blood cells that were, it's our immune system, but once there is no boundary, there are no boundaries, it creates pathology like cancer, and the white cells are duplicating themselves. So it's exactly the same here. We are part of the nature, and this is the nature, and this is how it works in the nature. And we need also to learn how to restrict ourselves, how to supervise, control to each one of the emotions that we have, or the inner conversation that we have. Okay? So, in this specific case, we're talking about the fire element that restrict the metal. If we think about nature, think about fire, that the heat of the fire is melting the metal. Metal is a very dense, very strong material in nature. And the fire is the one that will restrict, which means if we look right now at the model, you can see that you can see the red of the fire inside the metal. Okay? Okay? So that way it will lead you to see, it will allow you, it will help you to see which element restrict what. So here, look at the square. When we put it inside, so it will make it narrow. It will allow you to relate it to, the place that we put some boundaries. All right. So the fire is restricting the metal. If we think about life, yeah, sometimes when we are too stiff, when we hold ourselves too much, when the layers are accumulated and we don't know who we are anymore because we're grasping a lot of truth that don't belong to us. Yes. So we need to practice more of the joy and the peace and to bring more fire into our life in order to learn how to release and let go. Okay? This is how it works. Let's move right now to the metal element. The metal element restricts the wood. Yes, we were talking about boundaries, right? The metal talks about boundaries, represent the boundaries. And we were talking about this inner child, the creativity, the place that really wants to move. By the way, it's a very dangerous element, dangerous, in terms of, I talked about stagnation, because when we are trying, I said before, the wood element has a tendency to move. It's like a child. And if you think about a tree, think about the roots of the tree. And the roots, if we think about a tree, think about the roots of the tree, okay? And the roots of the tree, if we don't know how to restrict them, they can uplift a house. It's the same in our body. When we have a lot of anger and frustration, there are lots of movement in our body, and it can create a lot of knots. Think about kind of like necklace that got into a knot, and when we're angry and we're trying to unravel it, it creates more of the knots, right? So it's exactly the same. The movement of the wood element is very strong, the anger. So the metal element, which represents the boundaries, restrict and teach the inner child how to behave. Okay? The wood. So that's also here. You can see that we took the gray of the metal. By the way, those are the colors of the elements. This is how the element represents its medicine. Okay? So the metal represents the gray, and you can see the gray here inside the square of the wood. Okay? Let's move on and let's see what wood restricts, which element. So yeah, the wood element restricts the mother earth. Child, mother earth. And yeah, when the mother is not regulated, is not balanced, you definitely can see the worry. When it that does balance, so the worry will be balanced with the acceptance. And here, you know, the earth element um, is exactly like a mother. We are creating, we are training here the mind muscles of devotion and process, as I said before. But if the wood, and by the way, wood, like water, earth element, if we know that woods can really help to strengthen the earth, that's the reason that sometimes when we want to create a healthy earth, we put woods inside. But at the same time, as I said, the roots of the wood are very aggressive. So we need to learn how to all the time play with the restriction and the nourishment. As you can see here, also the green, you can see the green inside, and a balanced earth element, the earth element, when it's balanced, you can see a good center in a person. The center, the place that he can process things in the right way, uh, devote in the right way to projects, and be very focused. Be very focused. So the center, the oven, the place that we put all the food and we process, the place that allow us to stand still, the place that allows us to nourish the other elements. That's the earth element, okay? And the earth element restrict the water. If we think about water, and just just for the metaphor, take just a glass of water and pour inside just earth, sand. It will create a lot of unclear vision, unclarity, right? So sometimes when we have a lot of fear, a lot of layers of fear, okay, it's because the earth element wasn't balanced and the worry was there. And that way, we couldn't see clearly who we are and what's wisdom, okay? But at the same time, as I said, in order to trust, in order to persist, in order to create this balance between the fear and the wisdom, we need we need the foundation. We need the earth. We need some kind of a strong center, a strong foundation in order to learn how to talk our wisdom and to trust ourselves. Last, water. The water element restricts the fire. Restricts the fire, and you definitely can see that on nature, right? When it's too much fire, when there is a fire, we use the water in order to restrict the fire. So here as well, we put the blue inside the red square, so it will be easier for you to see which element is nourish. You can see here that the red line, when it's outside, it's nourishment, and when it's inside, it's the restriction. It's this Sheng cycle, vice versa to the Ko cycle, the nourishment and the restriction. This is for now. I hope it was helpful. See you in the next video. Bye for now.